I want to talk a little bit more about niching. I've spent so many videos talking about the best ways to niche, how to find your niche, the idea of niching, why it's important, all those things aside. But I want to carry on from that and just give you like a framework or a timeline, so to speak, of what really needs to happen with your niche and how the niche is just one part of the overall system. So what do I mean by this? So if you don't do niche research properly, basically finding out what your clients need, who they are, where they are on social media. I mean, there's no point handing out flyers and giving free sessions, doing free workshops, because that's just free. That's not going to help grow your business. But I'm talking about paying clients and paying people into your sessions or your business, whatever it is. All the research has to be done. So when it comes to where a lot of people screw this up is not only do they do the wrong research, but even if they're given the right tools to do the research, I don't know why, but a lot of therapists and coaches overcomplicate this part, okay? So what happens is the framework of having a good niche doesn't just exist there. The niche, your audience, and your content must all align up perfectly in order to have an output, which is income, paying clients. So if you don't do the niche research right, it means you're basically just guessing. You're guessing what people want, who these people are. Worst off, you're creating a niche based on your story or your background. I mean, for God's sake, forget about that stuff. But doing proper niche research. From the research of finding out the right things about this niche, is it going to be profitable, who these people are, what they really need, what their symptoms are. And next is, where are they? A lot of people do marketing and they do it a couple of ways. They might have their niche, they do that right. Then they say, well, I don't like Facebook, I don't like YouTube. I'm just going to niche on Instagram. I'm just going to spend all my time on Instagram. Based on your research and where you find these people, you want to also figure out where do these people exist the most. And that's why I tell my students, you've got to be across all your social medias right at the start, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, in order to find out where the biggest clusters of these people are. So the niche has to be right. And in order to, during the niche research process, the audience of who these people are and where they are has to be right as well. The next part of that is the content. People simply say, well, I don't know what content to create. What do I talk about? Do I talk about my story? I mean, there's nothing more motivating than someone taking a selfie and adding a quote to it. I mean, no client's ever going to buy what you have when you're talking about you and, selfies and all that sort of stuff. But that's, besides the point for this. But what I'm talking about, during the niche research, you'll find out where your clients exist the most. But you'll also find out what are their common questions. And this becomes the catalyst for your content. Everything has to align, guys. I know that a lot of people say, well, Scott, I found my niche on a certain social media. And I say, great, did the research, all looks good, let's go with that. And then they go to a different social media than when they found these people and they start marketing there, which is a no-no. But also their content is created based on something else they found on another social media platform, or worst off, they're creating content just off the top of their head. Your niche, your audience, where these people are, and also the content all has to align. How do I know what content to create? I know that from the niche research. I know that by finding out what hypnotherapists and coaches need in their business, or, if I'm teaching them ACH, how, the flaws of clinical or classical hypnosis have a lot of teething problems, and ACH solve those things. But let's say, for example, I'm going after lawyers again. I want to speak to lawyers. I want to find out what's the issue around smoking. I want to find out where they hang out the most. And I want to make sure I'm marketing there. And I want to make sure the marketing that I'm talking about, the questions that I'm answering are coming directly from the lawyers. Every video I've made on YouTube so far, the 1,300 videos or something that we've got, has all basically come from you guys. It's the questions you ask me. It's the questions I find online. It's the questions I find in my private Facebook groups with all my students. It's the questions they ask me on my courses. Now, if I'm not selling courses, I have a private Facebook group, and I know, let's say I'm working with people with phobias. There are plenty of Facebook groups, there's LinkedIn groups, Instagram groups, all that sort of stuff, where I can find out what these people are talking about. I can find out who these people are, where they are, what they're talking about, and I can create content based on that. So all in all, it's sort of a long-winded way, guys. Hopefully this made sense. Your niche has to align to where these people are, which social media. The social media has to align to the content. If one is off, you could basically have the niche right. You could have the whereabouts right, like all my clients are basically on YouTube. But if you found the content creation part is just based on what you think people are talking about, you'll miss people's questions entirely. And people look at it and say, well, that's not about me. I don't have that question. I'm no longer gonna listen. The reason why I create these videos like this and answer common questions is because the questions hypnotherapists and coaches ask me all the time. I don't have to think about it. I'm not talking about myself, I'm not having selfies. I'm not having a professional cameraman come along and create this elaborate video of how I changed my life and all of that sort of stuff and expecting people to enjoy it just because it's about me. That's not the case. So the timeline, the framework has to be important, guys. It has to be niche, audience, which is aware of us, and the content all has to align. And if you're thinking about any of these things, you're making conclusions and you'll get it wrong every single time. Do the research, find common questions, create the right content, and put that content in front of those people. Put that content in front of the people, knowing based on where they are, which you should have found out from the research. Everything comes from that research, guys. No thinking needed.